Well, howdy YouTube gamers, welcome. Today we are going to be reading through the Miyazaki interview. He is going to talk about the Duskbloods. There is like 3 parts and we are going to read all of them. We are going to see through the screenshots and stuff. We're gonna try to analyze a little bit what is the game about and stuff. Going to hear from the man himself, and let's start. Please tell us what led to this title being developed for Nintendo Switch 2. Yeah, that's a very good question. Also, I just want to point out this is very pretty picture of Miyazaki himself, isn't it? And also, like, we got earlier, like, this picture over there. Look at that. It's, well, definitely a vibe. A while back, we had the opportunity to meet with Nintendo to discuss ideas, and during this discussion, we presented a rough outline for the Duskbloods. It was still very bare bones at the time, more a loose string of ideas than the proper presentation. The concept itself was different from anything we had done before, and Nintendo seemed very interested in helping make it a reality. So that's when the project kicked off. Make some story short, Michael already said in the past that he is interested in multiplayer-based games, and he name-dropped Escape from Tarkov earlier, and like before even Elden Ring release. It's very high chance that like this game is heavily inspired by Escape from Tarkov, but I guess we are going to see what Michael has to say further. At first, it was being worked on by a small team as a title for Nintendo Switch. However, oh, look at that! So initially, they didn't even have it in plans to release it on Switch 2. It's supposed to be the game on Switch. Holy, that would actually work so badly. Like, I'm actually glad it didn't then. But it also means like the deal with Nintendo was struck like ages ago, most likely. Maybe even before the Elden Ring itself. However, just as the game started to take shape, we were approached by Nintendo with talk of Switch 2, which led us to revamp our development path with this new hardware in mind. The new hardware's focus on online features allowed us to stay as true to the original vision as possible, which was very good news for us. New hardware's focus on online features, what they mean by that, I wonder. Like, I don't know much about Switch 2. Frankly, I barely know anything about that console. All I know is I'm buying it because of the Duskbloods, and many other people does exactly the same. And that's about it, yeah? Like, I kind of wonder what they meant by that. Like, maybe that console, like, despite being relatively weak on the hardware side, going to have a lot to offer from like a software perspective, like some sort of the AI technologies, upscaling technologies, frame generator technologies, like more of the focus on online than on the other games. It's actually like that common meme. The online infrastructure of Nintendo is extremely outdated and just plain bad. So maybe it's not going to be the case with Switch 2, which is a very good news for all of us if that's the case, yeah? For all the people that literally buy this console only for this game in particular. Anyway, going further with what we have here, it sounds like the game differs from most of your previous titles. Can you give us a little more detail as to what type of game is it? Michael says, in terms of structure, we consider it a PvPvE title, just in case. I kind of realized that like people take that E as everything, and this is pretty funny because like P is player, yeah? V is versus, P is another player, V is versus, E is not everything, it's environment. That's what it means. Like, but yeah, I have seen people on Twitter, for example, not knowing that and saying that E is everything. No, it's environment. And mostly it means mobs and stuff, yeah? At its core, it is an online multiplayer focused game with both player versus player and player versus enemy gameplay. Did you always have some desire to make PvPvE type game? And Michael says, yes, I have always found the PvPvE structure very interesting. It allows for a broad range of game design ideas while also letting us leverage our experience of desiring or designing challenging enemy encounters. As a side note, please allow me to address one thing. As previously mentioned, this is an online multiplayer title at its core, but this doesn't mean that we as a company have decided to shift to a more multiplayer focused direction with titles going forward. Oh, well, look at that. The parachute has been deployed already. The Nintendo 2 Switch version of Elden Ring was also announced, and we still intend to actively develop single-player focused games such as this that embrace our more traditional style. Good. For all of you, I guess, yeah, especially like these people that hate on the fact like this game is multiplayer oriented. I mean, like maybe not on this channel, but a lot of people in social media just getting ultra upset because they want to be hero of their own story, and they hate how like other red bad man is ruining their experience, even though this is exactly what happens in all these games anyway, if they are playing in co-op. Let's actually take the look on this picture over here. Seems like we have just straight up 4 players against each other here, yeah? Like those are all characters. I mean, I assume so. We're gonna see in this interview what this game exactly is, but I do believe it is a hero game. And I think those are heroes that you can actually play. Well, we have the guy that farts through the sky. We have the lady that has some sort of the gravity magic. We have the guy with the gun, and that one, he has like a kind of patas type of bullshittery. We have seen all of these characters in the teasers. Now they are kind of in like a fighting stance. I'm trying to find anything in particular here, but really cannot tell much. Anyway, let's get back. Okay, please tell us about the game's characters and setting. The game's protagonists or characters controlled by the player are known as Bloodsworn. The Bloodsworn are a group whose members have achieved superhuman abilities through the power of special blood. As a general concept, they are similar to vampires, but they are not portrayed as the horrifying monsters you might associate with traditional vampirism. We tried to extract the sort of romantic aspects we found interesting from concepts such as vampires and blood and reinterpreted them as the Bloodsworn. Oh yeah, alright, so they got their own vampires pretty much. GG. We got like another pretty picture, and we actually have seen this shot in the trailer. Of course, since it is FromSoftware game, you need a freaking katana. That being said, now when I think about it, Bloodborne didn't really have katana, no? A lot of people interpret that Chikage, I think, as a katana, but if you are going to look at it, it's not really katana at all. So here is Chikage, yeah? I would say this is like combo of the scimitar and katana, rather than katana, no? Chikage is a hybrid of Japanese and European curved sword designs, leaving it somewhere between katana and the saber, I see. Well, it looks like one. But this what we see here, yeah? This thing is giga traditional katana, no? Like, that one, you for sure, you look at it and you say katana. So we got the katana boyo in latex clothes. Very interesting, very interesting. I'm pretty sure this character going to have his fans in particular parts of the internet. And we stopped here. Okay, sorry for wiggling around. In the Duskbloods, the Bloodsworn are competing for something known as First Blood. As human society reaches an end, First Blood flows in an event known as the Twilight of Humanity. The Bloodsworn are summoned to the Twilight of Humanity across a variety of different times and places in a bid to obtain First Blood. So time is convoluted, and that gives them an opportunity to mix the styles. That's why when I initially watched the first trailer of the Duskbloods, not only I but many other people had like that feeling as if things wouldn't fit with each other. Like the coherent vision wasn't exactly there. Like there is like that gothic type of style, like steampunk type of style of of the areas, but like the characters design sometimes doesn't seem to fit exactly that well. And now this is why, yeah, because the characters, the heroes, being summoned from the variety of different times and places. So yeah, like that gives them a lot of opportunity to play around with the character design for sure. It opens a lot of flexibility when it comes to designing these characters in order to make interesting gameplay loops.
Co za gówno!
Claw is playing Kazan the First Blood, just in case, if anyone wonders. So expect Engi sounds from time to time. Due to this, there is no fixed era or a location in which the Duskbloods takes place. There are more traditional Gothic or Victorian style maps, as well as those depicting the closing years of the early modern period, like the one glimpsed in the trailer with the train running through it. Okay, yeah, let's see this picture, just some sort of the train station, yeah? Like, these maps are definitely very pretty. Like, seems like we have a lot of details here, though. And that makes me a little bit worried about potential performance, but maybe some AI gaming is going to take part in optimization of these, and because of that, we will have a stable 60 FPS. Anyway, can you let us know the meaning behind the title The Duskbloods? The Duskbloods directly refers to the Bloodsworn themselves. As mentioned earlier, the Bloodsworn are summoned to the twilight of humanity in the battle for the First Blood. Duskbloods is collective term for those characters controlled by the player. Ah ha ha! Hero game, after all. It was kind of obvious already, like reading it through this interview, but this is very well defined here. So we got another beautiful picture of Michael Zaki-san, and that one is very memeable too. I have hard time deciding if like this one or this one is more memeable. I think like the guy just have memeable face, beautiful individual. So the last part of the first part of the interview says that it sounds like blood plays a pretty big role in the game. Michael Zaki says yes, in the context of this game, blood is used more conceptually as opposed to literal meanings like physical depictions of injury. Blood symbolizes one of the game's key themes, the history it holds, the power it passes on, and the marker of those who have surpassed the limitations of their own humanity. Bros says that bitches didn't want us to make Bloodborne 2, so we did it ourselves. GG. So we are done with the first part of the interview. Let's go to the second part. Superhuman abilities and opportunistic behavior. Let's check this out. By opportunistic behavior, they probably meant third partying. If you actually played like battle royales, you know what does that mean and you know how annoying it is. But yeah, what are some characteristics of the Bloodsworn? Michael says there are several reasons we put the player's focus on the Bloodsworn, with one of those being character actions. The Bloodsworn possess superhuman abilities thanks to special blood, so their actions are more dramatic than anything seen in our previous titles. Even basic character actions in this game, such as sprinting, super jump, basic character actions, super jump and double jump. Dude, yeah, I double jump to the shop nearby every Tuesday. Are designed to be dynamic and stress-free and are complemented by each character's own unique weapons and abilities, allowing for a wide range of creativity. So far, yada yada yada, frankly. And while this isn't directly related to the Bloodsworn themselves, the setting allows for the depiction of firearms as such, and every character is equipped with some means of attacking from a distance. I feel this is one of the game's unique aspects when compared with our previous titles. I hope these new action elements are one area that players will enjoy. So frankly, in Bloodborne, you could like essentially parry with a gunshot, and that turned the game into kind of fest of spamming these gunshots because, well, if you're not going to parry them, then at least you're gonna deal some damage. And from the distance too. Depending how they are going to do that, how like they are going to introduce the distance type of attacks. Honestly, it might be actually pretty bad, at least from the PvP standpoint, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe they are going to do it right this time. Earlier, you referred to protagonists or characters as plural. Does this mean the player will be able to choose from multiple different characters? And okay, like, well, that was kind of obvious, but yes, there are over a dozen characters for the player to choose from, each with their own identity and appearance. I think there are a lot of unique elements to the character designs and the weapons they use, so hopefully players can find one or two favorites among them. Also, each character can be customized to a certain extent, allowing players the fun of building a character that feels like their own. Kinda hard to believe, frankly, but okay, let's actually see the pictures, yeah? So we got two pictures here. One of them is a Toad with Booba, and the other one is what looks like a poster boy of the entire game, yeah? So the poster boy is doing the funny spring jump across the city. And here we have gamers in kind of choreographic pose, yeah? Like of these two characters. Chat is screaming at me to fucking delete the downscaling here, but why? Ah, I see. You want to look at the Toad Booba in the high quality. Honestly, understandable. Can you provide more details on the general gameplay loop? Here we have it, creme de la creme. The game has so-called hub area. Okay, we got Night Rain, but on Switch, where players can choose their character, customize them, and enter online multiplayer. Dude, there is no shot Night Rain and this game were not being developed in collaboration. If you're gonna play Night Rain, this game probably gonna feel very, very alike. We're probably going to end up with new user interface that was introduced in the Night Rain. So remember this argument that like a Miyazaki has nothing to do with Night Rain? Well, maybe not directly, but indirectly definitely he had. Like there is no shot these games were not created in the collaboration. Like they are not producing new systems here. Like from that what they are saying, this is literally Night Rain. Online multiplayer supports up to 8 players. Upon concluding an online match, players then return to the hub, at which point they receive some sort of reward whether they win or lose. Using these rewards, players can further customize their characters, and so the cycle continues. This is Night Rain, guys. Literally gameplay loop of Night Rain, but instead of 3 players you have 8. Instead of PvE focused gameplay you have PvPvE. But all these systems literally Night Rain. Maybe Night Rain is kind of like an actual test background for this game, to assure like all these systems just work correctly on the release of the Duskbloods. But anyway, online matches are generally last player standing. However, there are certain cases where victory conditions differ. For example, players might be tasked with teaming up to take down a powerful boss enemy or find themselves in other special circumstances. So we got events. This is also kind of sounds like Night Rain would be better for this game, frankly. In Night Rain you also have events. So victory conditions are influenced not just by PvP, but PvE results as well. And Michael says, that's right, some victory conditions center around defeating a boss enemy. I can't think of any examples with that rule set. It sounds very interesting. I'm happy to hear you say that. Regardless of whether it's PvP or PvE, the idea is to provide players with an experience that allows them to learn and hone their skills as they play. We have therefore designed the PvE boss encounters to present a tough challenge and a sense of accomplishment upon defeating them. So players can also enjoy improving their own skills over time as they battle. Yes, although there are a variety of elements in place that keep the game from becoming too stoic. For example, how players conduct themselves during the match is just as important as direct combat. The Duskbloods implement victory points, which are responsible for ultimately deciding the outcome of a match. To obtain victory points, direct combat is of course important, but it is not the only way. Some players may prefer to earn points by avoiding direct combat and instead engaging in more opportunistic behavior. How you earn points is entirely up to you. So, like, I wonder if you can end up with a situation that, for an example, let's say I'm gonna jump onto the map with 8 different players, yeah? I am going to kill 6 of them, but the other player was avoiding combat altogether, focusing on the objectives related to the PvE. And I assume there is going to be some sort of the time limit, yeah? At least this is like portrayed like there would be. I wonder if there would be like possibility to have situation where if I'm not going to eliminate that last player, then I'm still going to lose. Furthermore, I'm curious, maybe even if we are going to kill that last player and we are going to kill every single other player in the session, I kind of wonder if we are still going to end up with situation where the player that is dead can actually win because of the cumulative amount of the victory points. Anyway, additionally, each character can summon an entity to assist in combat, giving players a high degree of freedom when it comes to how they fight and win. So, we got gamers our own Spirit Ashes. It seems like. I assume each character can summon an entity to assist in combat is basically just a Spirit Ash moment. And we have seen it in trailers, frankly, yeah? Actually, this lady, look at that. This lady, I am pretty sure this is that lady from the trailer that appears out of nowhere. Let me see. Here we have it, look. This part of the trailer, the guy drops something on the ground, and a lady with two blades appear, and, well, I mean, this is very clear, this is that individual. And now here we have other main characters, so it seems like this lady is some sort of Spirit Ash, this lady is some sort of the Mimic tier. Who knows, maybe it's gonna be the only one, maybe it's not even playable character. There is not going to be a co-op in that game, it seems like. If you are going to cooperate with other players, it's entirely up to you, or up to the event that you are going to participate in. Another important aspect in a match variables, such as the event system, this system has the potential to alter the course of the match, such as special enemy spawns and additional objectives with accompanying bonus rewards. In the trailer, you might have noticed a giant stone face looming in the sky. This is one of example of the events that can occur in a match. In this case, the appearance of this stone face affects the environment and changes match rewards, which can have an immediate impact on the player motivations and objectives. These events don't happen all the time, and I hope discovering them gives players some incentive to keep coming back. So, procedurally generated randomization of some sort, it seems like. It sounds like even those who tend to shy away from PvP can still enjoy themselves. That was the intention. I personally am not much of a PvP person. That's why Elden Ring is so shit PvP wise. That's why Dark Souls 2, the only Souls game that didn't have Miyazaki as a director, is actually more of a PvP focused when it comes to its mechanics. Unfortunate. Anyway, further. And I wanted to make something that's satisfying even for players like me. While the goal of match is to obtain first blood, there are personal objectives that provide separate rewards to the player as well. So I hope these add to the fun of each engagement. Okay, before we actually gonna jump to part 3. So, what your thoughts so far, gamers? What you think? It's kind of interesting that the guy that doesn't really have a individual interest in the PvP, they are not a big of PvP person. Technically now when I think about it, yeah, you can be a great designer despite not really liking what you are designing personally. Michael isn't much of PvP enjoyer, but that doesn't mean he thinks it's not important. Very good point, Trice. This is like finding out dad doesn't like you. Well, him not being personally interested in PvP that much, not being the PvP person much, is kind of unfortunate because in every another product that is directed by Michael, you can rather expect just less of love being put into the PvP segment of the game. And it really makes sense from the perspective of how the games directed by him looks like in comparison to these that were not directed by him, yeah? For example, Armored Core games, yeah? Armored Core 5 was such a, it was literally just multiplayer game, yeah? First and foremost. It's supposed to be the competitor of Call of Duty. But Armored Core 6 is very story-oriented, and multiplayer got a huge hit. Only more than a year after the release, we got the ranked mode. And ranked mode makes so much sense in case of game like Armored Core. And that ranked mode is on top of that, not really that well made anyway. And that's kind of unfortunate. It would be so much better for people like me or people like you, considering that you're watching this channel, if Michael would be actually a PvP guy, but sadly he's not, and this is the reality we have to live in. And that also explains why a lot of designs in Elden Ring related to the multiplayer are just that bad. It's not about just something not being super polished. No, For example, Counterstrong is just straight up terrible design. And if the main guy doesn't really bother much about the topic, then like what is incentive for other people in the project to make it work right, yeah? To make it like well polished, yeah? And to assure that the design is done well. Alright, anyway, part 3. Playing roles and altering fates. What other ways might players enjoy the game outside of combat? One thing I love doing in any game I direct is leaving fragments of lore and world building details, allowing the player the fun of using their imagination to make connections. The Duskbloods is no exception to this, so more cryptic lore. However, we have gone about it a little differently from previous titles. The fragments this time are found in the previously mentioned character customization items. Their blood, history, and fate. Customizing a character will reveal a piece of information regarding the world and its unfolding story. Okay, so it's probably gonna be literally the same in Night Train, by the way. You customize their blood, history, and fate, the journalist asks, and Michael says, yes, analyzing and altering a character's blood, history, and fate allows players to customize all sorts of things, from their abilities, appearance, and inner characteristics to the role of the role they play in the world and relationships with other characters. This is also a keyword here. Their abilities, yeah? So yeah, like I expect gem system like in Night Train, pretty much one-to-one, where like gems gonna be affecting the loot, the actual like outcome of the abilities that you are using on particular characters, synergies with other characters, and so on and so forth. I was almost certain before. Now I am practically on 100% assurance that Night Train is beta for this game. Anyway, focusing these elements on the concept of blood or blood history and fate allows for a deeper explanation of customization is another reason we place the Bloodsworn as the protagonists. Okay, interesting. I would say you probably did so to just balance the game somewhat, because if you would have to balance like every single item and so on, it would be like way harder. I kind of realized something though right now. Now when I think about it, there might be no in-game loot like in Night Train, because like we are seeing these characters only using their main weapons. So maybe you are not gonna be able to pick up weapons from the ground. Although I think it was the same in case of videos from the Night Train. So I don't know, hard to say. Anyway, do you mind sharing any other points you personally find interesting? One area I haven't talked about yet is roles. In online play, roles give players special responsibilities and objectives that often lead to unique interactions and relationships between players based on their corresponding roles. That's probably not much info to go on, so allow me to provide a few examples. But please note we are still finalizing some of the naming and details. For example, if a player possesses the Destined Rivals role, another player is designated as the rival, and they are tasked with finding and defeating that player. Doing so counts as achieving a personal goal separate from the overall victory conditions. Separated though, so maybe you are just going to get like a better post-game rewards for your further character development. We had this type of event in a game called League of Legends between two characters, yeah? So when in one match you are going to have Rengar and Kha'Zix. Those are like two characters that are essentially hunters. And if these two guys are actually in one match against each other, they are going to trigger an in-game event where throughout like a further duration of the game, the character is stronger if they are going to kill one another. Maybe it's going to be something like that. Maybe we are going to end up with character strengthening for the duration of the match, although it could have been like a little bit unfair to the other players in the game, since it's not like you have two teams or anything, so it's not like you can help. Well, you got the point, yeah? Anyway, another example is Destined Companion, where one player is required to seek out another designated as their companion, which results in a special reward if they form a bond with one another. Very interesting. Roles can be assigned to any character via blood customization, allowing players to enjoy role-playing in a literal sense and hopefully adding to the drama of these engagements. Here we have like a characters actually cooperating. It would seem like geography of cooperation, although we haven't seen this lady, I think, in the trailers. Maybe that's a Spirit Hash thingy. Because, look, you see the theme of the clothes actually matches color-wise. So, honestly, it could have been like just a different spirit. Anyway, going further. Kind of like how players can pick their roles in a tabletop RPG. Exactly, while not entirely intentional, it might reflect my own interest a bit. It might seem a little unorthodox at first, but I hope players will give it a try. That reminds me, I was curious about the winged rat character seen in the trailer. Can you provide some details as to what role this character serves? Clearly, we got a rat here. He has the earring, he has some sort of marks. Wait, those are like feathers. Bro has fucking feathers, right? I didn't realize initially, like he even like calls it like winged rat, like completely missed that part. Okay, anyway, that character shares a similar role with the Firekeepers from Dark Souls series. They remain in the hub area providing the player with advice and guidance. I suppose you could say we tried doing something a little Nintendo-esque in the spirit of the partnership. What do you mean by that? We tried something cute for a change, haha. Although I will say this character is actually an elderly gentleman. Honestly, when I'm looking at the guy, I'm not sure if the first word that I would use here is cute. Is there anything else you would like to say before we finish? In addition to creating the PvPvE title, we have tried our hand at introducing a lot of new and interesting ideas with the Duskbloods. From superhuman player actions, a free-form combat approach, and the gameplay that's dynamic and dramatic, to the romanticized aesthetic of the Bloodsworn, deep character customization, and fragmentary storytelling, I think there is a lot to appreciate and enjoy in this title, and I sincerely hope players look forward to it. Thank you very much for your time. Well, kind of yap at the end, not gonna lie. Well, that's going to be it. That's the entire thing. We got beautiful Miyazaki-san. We got like a shot of the map. We got like the guy shooting at the other guy, flying another individual, throwing some sort of gravity magic, and another guy just bang, fucking SpongeBob, I guess. We got the katana guy, of course, also in the funny latex. And then like we got the Lies of P reference Kappa, and then we got the poster boy flying through the city, and we got Booba Frog, dude, like, and we got the guy abusing the NPC PvE companions in order to beat the boss, like in Elden Ring fashion, so kind of Elden Ring reference. And I think this is another story of that, frankly. Oh, look, it's Godskin Duo, but different. And then we got another beautiful man himself. And then we got cute rat, quote unquote. So that's about it. We got to know much more about this game. First of all, Night Rain. If you're gonna play Night Rain, you are going to have the background for this game when it comes to like particular mechanics, especially like character developing mechanics with things, you know. Michael didn't say much about PvP. It might be a little bit worrying, but who knows, like maybe the game is going to be fun. I certainly cannot wait, and I am going to play shit ton out of this game, that's for sure.